Welcome to the AI Riff, where we cut through the noise and break down the top AI stories of the week with real talk and real relevance. No hype, no fluff, just a vendor agnostic take on what's actually shaping your world today. Whether you're in tech, lending, or just trying to make sense of the headlines, we're here to separate the wheat from the chaff and the facts from fiction. Now let's get started with your hosts, Mario Di Benedetto, Rob Katz, Ruth Lee, and me, Kyle Myers. We hope you enjoy this episode of the AI Riff.
Episode 30. Big 30.
Big 30. Do you remember when you turned 30? Was that a big landmark birthday for y'all?
Well, end of 2 decades, and now we're into our third.
Or
30, I had my first kid, so that was a big year.
I was 32. No, I was 34. Wow. Okay.
You must be old.
I am ancient. Everyone asks me what it was like before electricity, but what do we got today, Mario?
We got 3 vampires at the dentist. No, what we got is the state of AI from Menlo Ventures. Who's Menlo Ventures, Rob?
one of the largest venture capital firms in the world.
So venture capital, they buy ideas, they invest in ideas, and then get a big payout if they're successful.
That's right.
And lose all their money if they're not. So we say that up front, so you take everything we talk about with a grain of salt, right? That it is, one VC company's perspective, albeit hopefully data sourced. And the very long piece that they published in the last couple weeks, having to do with overall state of AI. And I'll start with kind of the headline, and I'll throw it up on the screen, in fact, which is that enterprise AI is the fastest scaling software category in history.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I think to some extent that's in raw dollars. I'm going to assume that by percent it's significant, but still, it shows 3.2x year over year. That doesn't sound like the fastest scaling ever.
How much is of that is getting confused with machine learning, though? Like, what's the standard it sets for AI? Like, what? I'm a little confused. Like, I get it. That makes sense. That chart makes sense to me. AI is like going through the roof. But what's in that data?
I actually believe that they're talking about generative AI spend, right? That's all articles about generative AI. So it's not just the machine learning portion of it, but it's actually the Gen AI stuff.
Okay. So the spend on Gen AI is that much higher year over year. It's just going. And is that the fever that everyone caught?
Well, that's kind of the headline of the whole article is this an AI boom or is it a bubble, right? And that's what they're trying to break down with the details that they get into by horizontal industry, by vertical industries, by naming out some specific vendors and what they're doing and so forth. They're really trying to figure that out because as an investor, right, as a VC investor, you don't want to invest in a bubble. You want to invest in a boom. And so I think it's their analysts doing the work to help justify their ongoing investments into these various spaces. And we talked, at the beginning of the episode, early episodes, we talked about where should the money be being spent. Should it be being spent in building the foundational LLMs? Should it be spent in the satellites for power, like we talked about in our last episode? The shovels. Are you spending it on the shovels to dig out the gold, or are you spending it on the gold? Type of thing. And this research that they did is really showing the shift that more money is now being spent at the application layer. How is the Gen AI being used, as opposed to the spend being done at foundational building the different models that are out there. And I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead, Mario. I'll throw this out there. We can come back to it.
Yeah.
One of the really interesting things that came out of this was the enterprise. So how are enterprise businesses spending their money? And in the early days, they were spending it by trying to hire people themselves and build their own stuff on top of the AI foundational models. And now instead they're spending it on the vendors who are coming up with the AI solutions. And, look, not to say that we're geniuses here, but looking back at some of the stuff that we've talked about over the past 30 episodes, Mario's a genius. But looking back at what we talked about over the past 30 episodes was, hey, mortgage bankers, don't spend money yourself on this stuff. Talk to your vendors and see what your vendors are doing. Let them invest the money to come out with stuff and ride the vendors. Well, that's what this study is basically saying, that the enterprises are finally now doing, is they're going with the vendors as opposed to spending the money themselves.
Yeah, and this is one of the charts they showed, right? The increase of 20-some% year over year on the percent of the enterprise AI solutions that are being purchased versus built, right?
That's right.
So,
well, that makes more sense. And plus, the biggest line that I hear in the mortgage industry is, we're mortgage sales. We're not a software vendor. We hire people who are smart and can use software and that can configure ancillary tools to adapt and make things be a little more, fluid in our process. But we're not a software vendor. So it's always made total sense to me that AI should reside with a software vendor who's going to be able to pivot more quickly when the industry starts moving in a direction that is faster, better, cheaper. They'll be able to handle it much more quickly, much more efficiently, and much more with forethought forethought and insight. Boy, get those tongue twisted. And so it just doesn't make sense that any one individuals should be investing in building out their own AIs. It makes total sense to me. But that still seems like a high number of companies that are still doing it themselves. What was that at? 43%? Is that right?
No, in 2025, it was 76% were buying, so 24%.
So 24%. Okay. What was in the year before? It was higher. Okay.
Or it was 47 the year before.
53 in 2024. So it's pretty dramatic shift, right?
Yeah.
And some of that could have just been, as you were saying, Rob, it's just people realizing building software. Building software isn't easy. Even with AI, building software, isn't easy. I had written a whole piece about how I made a bad call thinking that vibe coding was going to make this huge proliferation of all these mini apps that were out there, and that everybody would start using these mini apps. They're not really using the mini apps. They're using, more substantial apps, and there's still a lot out there, but it's not that easy to build.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that, dovetail a little bit off of it, or tangent a little bit from that, what also leapt out of this research was agents. So the definition of an AI agent is a tool that just runs and makes decisions autonomously and executes tasks. And everybody calls themselves an agent. By that definition, though, very few things are. Like an example of an agent, I think, is the Waymo self-driving car. Like that to me is an agent, right? It is making decisions on its own. It's routing itself. It's making decisions on how to drive. We have Waymos here in Arizona. They're phenomenal to ride and so forth. That's a good example of an agent. What this research showed was there's almost no agents in play. That the majority of the usage of AI, the majority of the money being spent on AI, is still human-driven prompting and prompt engineering to get the AI to do what you want it to do, and not autonomously running agents. Now, my opinion is 2026, 2027, there will absolutely be the growth of more and more agents. But the key thing here is this is generative AI, right? This is math doing statistics to pull out what order of words should things be going in. It's not logic. It's not, and so so let's go back to my Waymo example. It's not generative AI that's deciding the routing and the mapping and driving the car. It's a different type of AI that's being used. Are you disagreeing with me, Mario, or you're?
No. You're right. That's not. That's absolutely not two very different things, right?
Yeah.
And one of the reasons, and it jumps out in this state of AI thing from Menlo Ventures, one of the reasons coding, I think, is so successful is that coding doesn't really require a worldview, right? That's the concept people say that AI LLMs lack. right? Because it's just math. It doesn't understand how the world works. It just knows words are proximate to one another. But in coding, there is not really a worldview, right? Coding is code, right? You can create pieces of code and they know how to interact with other pieces of code. Coding by itself is a worldview, in and of itself.
With a very clear syntax, grammar, the order of the words and the punctuation is defined.
What's possible, what's not possible, it's all defined innately in the coding language.
That's right. And it dovetails back to a couple episodes ago. We were talking about Microsoft's move to focus their Gen AI on healthcare and not try to solve all the world problem. And by limiting the domain of what they wanted to go after was a strategic decision on their part. And this Menlo Ventures kind of calls out too, right? If they talk about going into a vertical and the dominance of the players that are focused on vertical as opposed to trying to solve everything. They also have a section about what happens, horizontally too, two different ways to look at it. But yeah, it is. So wrapping back to agents aren't, right now the technology at our fingertips is Gen AI. Agents need something else to be agentic, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because it again, unless you can find a way to make something do something 100% consistently and never stray, then it can't really be agentic, right?
That's right.
Because almost every agent requires some level of consistency, unless it's something that's just giving, something that can vary every time it answers. If you can have slight variations, then that's cool.
Yeah. I think another cool thing that came out of this article, and Kyle, I don't know if you want to pop in or not, I'm rambling a lot at you here, is some of the spend at the enterprise level on these tools are individuals using personal credit cards to gain access to the AI tools because the enterprise won't do it. No, we're not going to buy a license for ChatGPT. The people are doing it because it's making them more productive and making their job easier for them. It's worth it to them to spend the $20 a month personally to make their job easier, even if their company won't sanction that it's actually happening. Now, that opens up a ton of governance and privacy and corporate, rules that are being broken, but it's happening. So, hey, mortgage lenders or any other business that's out there, you may have a policy in place that says you can't use AI. There's probably some people on your team that are using AI on their own dime because it's making their job easier.
Yeah, it's like two surgeons at the carnival.
Keep them coming, baby. Keep them coming.
I don't know if that's the same. That's not the same. And speaking to your point, though, Rob, our risk management within just our space of mortgage technology, which is one of the critical, a lot of personal and private information, just like healthcare, just like banking. Well, banking, when I say not mortgage banking, so loans versus deposits. That you have to have a robust risk avoidance and a robust risk mitigation plan and a robust security plan. You have to have the smartest people that know how to keep people not only from hacking in, but you're hacking out to do this, to use, especially if it's agentic AI. Oh my Lord. Anyone who wants to try it, I don't know how long if you get found out, it's not going to be probably a slap on the wrist. It's going to be, you could be in a lot of trouble. So I'd probably get clearance, before you go and do that.
It's so it's funny because I had heard somebody, and this has been a little while. I had heard somebody who said they were using stuff outside, right? They were using their own, and the reason they were using it was not because they had nothing at work. It was because they were like two major versions of ChatGPT behind at work, and it was just so bad and useless at the time that they were just frustrated. Like, I can't actually get anything out of it. It doesn't do anything. Now, today, if you were two versions behind, that might not be the case. But Kyle, what you're saying does make me wonder, like, how much chaos is really being created in corporate America in particular, right? Where people are trying to do it right. They're trying to put in all the guidelines and all the guardrails and everything they need to make sure that they don't have this tool misused, but people are just going end around, right? And they're doing whatever. And so, like, because they can't do it fast enough, people are getting frustrated and saying, I can't miss out, right?
Yeah,
I,
want to
I,
own a
I,
piece. You want to own a piece of Anthropic because honestly, as the corporate, that's where most of the corporations are going for their large language model. So you're going to want it because once they've solved that, Mario, once they've got it tightened down, and they are providing the best tools within the company, it's going to go nuts. But they
Yeah.
just, I think it hit them too hard and too fast. And attorneys and compliance people don't move that fast. I mean, they have to now, but they don't move at that speed. And getting new policy, new procedures, getting boards to approve different security models, doing all that stuff takes time.
so let me throw this terrifying use case. Oh, go ahead if you want to talk through this real fast.
No, go ahead. We'll come
I
back to
say
it.
a terrifying use case for all you mortgage bankers. You've got a lazy underwriter. I don't want to say that they're new. I don't want to say that they've been around for 20 years, but they're lazy. You have already digitized all your loan files. Everything comes in by PDFs. Everything's getting scanned. There's a super easy button in your LOS to download the loan file, the complete loan file as a PDF. On ChatGPT, there's a plus button to upload a document. You're telling me there's not underwriters that are uploading the whole loan file into GPT and going, should I approve this loan? And having GPT go through and read through all the documents and pull the data off of it and make a recommendation. Like, again, if you're a lazy underwriter, why wouldn't you be doing that? And sure, it's breaking the rules and compliance and all that other stuff, but
So I got to tell you a story. A lender friend of mine was telling me about some tooling that they were using, and I'm not even going to mention the tooling that they're using, but they're using some tooling that is intended to monitor their infrastructure. And this person happened to be the CTO at a lender, and he's been around for a long time, so he knows his stuff. He gets an email saying there's been a breach, like, whatever. He doesn't check the link. He clicks on it.
Mm.
It's actually this technology that actually senses things like what you just said. It
Mm.
it actually keeps track of what you do all day from a network perspective. And if you do something aberrant, it stops you.
Mm.
So you got to try to download, a whole client list. No, prevented, right? And it's funny that you brought that up because maybe that is the answer, right? That for all where Kyle started of people with the best intentions, I'm going to put in all the right guardrails and everything else, that they do have to kind of be defensive about it and say, and I'm going to prevent people from doing end arounds, right? I'm going to watch your computer and I'm going to know if you've got a separate version of ChatGPT loaded up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we have to do to protect the private information of our clients because there's no. I remember our old security officer said, "My job is very easy. It's in one line: keep the company out of the newspaper," and that and that meant it was wide open to do whatever it took to make sure there was never a breach, never a malware incident, never a whatever. And there's still, you still get those pocket events that happen. And thankfully, there was enough safeguards in it that it never exploded to the whole network or the whole company or anything like that. Those
Yeah.
guys are around, but there's a lot of times where the sales is running the company and they'll kind of just go, I can't hinder our salespeople like that. We got to go with it. I don't think they realize how big of a decision that is. Now, some of them do, and some of them say the risk is worth the return. However, I don't know many that have had it happen to them that'll agree with that the risk was worth the return.
Yeah.
Because you may or may not be still in business.
The risk is it's worth the return as long as the risk only happens to other people.
Right. As the old adage, one of my old bosses used to say, a guy would always come in and say, I got a loan. It's perfect. He says, it just doesn't fit quite in the guidelines. It'll be my ass if it goes bad. And my boss would always say, well, your ass isn't big enough. So Yeah, and that's the same with technology, and we've got to be very serious about how we implement it to not just this is cool or this is faster. Slow down. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. Just take a heartbeat. Come on.
So I did want to throw this back up. And again, Menlo Ventures is an investor in Anthropic. So this is very self serving on their part. But Kyle, you mentioned before, Anthropic, has momentum. This is a clear sign of the momentum. If you're not following it, it's the orange, right? The orange, right? That they, from an enterprise LLM, now this happens to be the API market, right? So they're very specific into things that are basically where people are building code, right? They're writing code to use the LLMs as opposed to just chat stuff. Um, but it's a pretty strong message, right, that comes through about their stability. And early on, we're doing a little bit of a retrospective, right, as we
But,
close out the year on our last few episodes.
but look at that pink part though too.
Yeah,
What's up with Google?
it's a good point. So, and people will say it's because Google came out with Gemini 3. And Gemini 3 and the fact that Google has its own ecosystem, right? They have apps to meld it into. The only question there is then why isn't Microsoft doing really well? They have a lot of apps.
Yeah,
Maybe it's because people say Copilot is
I'm
no bueno.
I'm I'm still going by. Well, but didn't Copilot start and use Anthropic, or didn't they? I thought they started with
You're supposed
AI.
to come. You're supposed to come with facts, Kyle.
I know. I know. Well, the facts are Klarna's going to be at a hundredfold in 5 years.
I think you said 1,000-fold. Yeah.
Was it 1,000-fold?
No,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
a
it's
hundred.
100-fold.
Yeah, 100-fold.
Yeah.
And Anthropic will continue this climb. I guarantee you.
All right, all right. Well, we know one person on this podcast is an investor.
Yes.
Someone.
In both.
Ruth?
I've got Anthropic and OpenAI, so
Yes.
I win either way.
You
Um,
hedged your
I did.
You don't know where Google goes, but what if Gemini takes over? That's not good.
I know.
It's like five zombies in
I
life.
mean, I was ecstatic when Sam Altman at OpenAI issued a code red after Gemini 3 came out. As an investor, I was thrilled. Like, oh God, they're paying attention to the market. Like go focus, go good. What's interesting is ChatGPT 5.2 came out just a couple days ago or a day ago,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I've noticed it's actually pretty good. There was no fanfare. There's not a lot, there's not a lot of noise about it. It's pretty solid. It was to me, it's not like an incremental upgrade, but it's kind of like they fixed all the bugs in 5.1. Type
It's
of
steak. It's
Um,
steak. It's not sizzle.
Yeah. Um, Something else in this Menlo Ventures article that I thought was interesting was that the startups are moving way faster than the incumbents. And so, you sit there and go, I never heard of Anthropic before. Well, that's because they were a startup. They got into this and they're moving faster. They're doing good stuff, right? They talked about how the folks who make QuickBooks, Intuit, there's so much legacy weight and backwards compatibility and they already have customers, so they can't mess with their customers that are slowing them down from being able to move fast. So coming back to the thread of what we've talked about over the past 30 episodes, as hey mortgage banker and other business folks, when you're talking to your vendors about what are they doing with AI, don't be scared of talking to some vendor you've never heard of before that's specifically focused on AI, because they've been able to specifically focus on AI because they're not dealing with all the legacy baggage that they've had to deal with. And I'm not saying legacy baggage in a negative way. It is relative to how fast they can move with AI, but it's good to work with a vendor that's got clients and all that other stuff too. You got to weigh that all out. But this paper, again, this research called out, don't be surprised by the fact that these no-name companies are dominating because they saw an opportunity, they got in there, they focused all their business on an AI-driven solution to go solve a real problem. And the big guys just can't move as fast for lots of different reasons.
That sounds eerily similar to a situation we have in our LOS environment. Not sure what that could be referring to, but Mario, if you want to expand on that, you can.
If I will. No.
Hey, you could toot your own horn.
It's a
Roth
record.
just said he's an investor in OpenAI and Anthropic. We know
So
you woke up.
what I'm curious about that, and maybe this is a whole nother episode, Rob, is if you tried to correlate that the speed of those startups
Yeah.
across all the different places where they are, horizontal, vertical, yada yada, and you correlated it to the level of PII, SPI, compliance, etc., of the target solutions that they're doing,
Yeah.
something in me believes that they're targeting all the things that don't have high compliance requirements, and that makes it easy for them, and that where they start to hit a ceiling is when you have high compliance, super high security, like super high privacy, fairness, like in mortgage, you got to make sure you protect against bias and all that. That it becomes a little harder, assuming people are actually paying attention and asking for those things, which we hope they are, right? You hope
Yeah.
that people, are vetting these startups, right? Before
Yeah,
they,
it's a great call out. So again, in total disclosure, one of the companies that I'm working with is, and I've mentioned them in prior episodes, Reverse Plus, came out with a modeling tool for reverse mortgage lenders to very quickly play out scenarios for applicants, and they have drawn the line in bold Sharpie. They're not an LOS. They capture first name, last name, and email address, and that's it. No socials, no incomes, because reverse mortgage, you don't need all that stuff, right? You need their age, you need what their property is worth, and how much equity they got, and then it runs the scenarios that's there, and they've already got clients, and things are going really well for them. Knock on wood. It's been very exciting to watch them grow. And there's been some question about, well, when can you replace quantum? When can you become our LOS? And the founders are like, never. We are never going to do that. For Mario, for your very point, like they don't want to have to get to that level of security and compliance and all that stuff that weighs stuff down. So they're a startup that's moving fast. It's very successful. And if you do reverse mortgages, you should be talking to them, but they're putting their product in a box, and that box is the easy box as opposed to the hard box, right?
yeah, it's like two robots at a dive bar.
Yeah. Keep them coming, baby. For anyone who doesn't know what the heck Mario keeps throwing these out for, we had one of our 8 million listeners made the comment that we were like three clowns outside of the circus. So we're coming up with analogies to go along with that. So
Yeah,
We're embracing it. We're embracing it.
we are embracing it.
but at least the original comment actually had some relevance, like because we are three clowns. I mean, but at least we accept that,
4 imposters in the gift shop. There's like a list of 30 of them from ChatGPT.
Yeah, well, that's hallucinations. Those are hallucinations. Yeah, I have nothing more to add to this one. So I alluded to the fact that I was going to save what I did in AI to this episode, but I'm going to keep you guessing until next one.
Maybe till next year.
Definitely till next year. Good call. Because our next episode will not drop until the new year.
So this isn't AI at all, but I got to share it. So I'm a big podcast listener. Surprise, I listen to a bunch of them. And I was listening to one the other day. I want to say This American Life or something. And this a teacher of 7-year-olds did an experiment where she put something in a shoebox, totally sealed the shoebox, said to the kids, you could shake it, you can move it around, you have to guess what's in the box. And they spent all day passing it around and making guesses, and they never got it right. And they're like, all right, open the box. What is it? She goes, I'm never going to tell you. And she was trying to teach them about uncertainty and that life, you don't always get the answers in life. And so it kind of backfired on her because like the kids told their parents and the parents got, and the other teachers wanted to know. And she caught one of the teachers trying to break into her closet to open the box and see what was in there. So after the next day, she finally ripped the box open. It was a bottle of Tylenol or aspirin or something like that was in the box. And it ruined her experiment that she was trying to teach for these kids, but it was very amusing. So Kyle, you may never tell us what you did with AI, and we just have to learn to live with it.
You know what? I may never use AI. How do you know I'm not AI?
It's like three librarians at the most.
Yeah, you'd only be 85%
Isn't
accurate.
it Max Headroom who used to do that?
We're not AI.
Max Headroom. Yeah.
All right, this has become a very long dog walk.
It has been.
Yeah. Speaking of, I got to go walk my dog.
Okay. Go. You get in the dark, but that's okay.
Yeah, I carry a flashlight.
Oh, okay. Well, if that's it, then I'm Kyle Myers.
I'm Rob Katz.
Still Mario Di Benedetto.
And this has been the AI Riff.
Wires hum like whispers in the deep dark night. Shadows dancing strange under neon light. Digits spinning fast like a gambler's hand. The clock chimes change, it's the new command. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Binary prophets riding fading streams. Data flows like rivers fueling all our dreams. Simple or savvy, it's all the same path. Under skies of innovation, we redraw the map. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Set the rhythm to the beat of change we sing. Every click and hum a key that rings. A revolution, quiet, but it's vast. Building empires where echoes of futures cast. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean.